He didn't even look up when he said it. We can hire 3 juniors for your salary? The sentence landed softly, like an apology. That's what made it lethal. I stood there with my badge still warm from the scanner, coffee untouched. 12 years of fixes and midnight deploys sitting quietly behind my ribs. He slid the envelope across the table. HR had already signed it. My name spelled correctly, finally. I nodded. Calm, professional. I even thanked him. What I didn't do was remind him that the systems ran because I remembered things no document ever captured. I didn't mention that the juniors he loved were trained on shortcuts. I built to survive impossible deadlines. I didn't argue. I just left. I met him 12 years earlier in a half-lit conference, room that smelled like burnt plastic and ambition. He was new, sharp suit, louder smile. I was already there, younger, stupid enough to believe loyalty scaled with effort. He called me his backbone, his rock. When investors came, he put me in front of the dashboards. When outages hit, he texted me first, then slept. We grew the department together, or so I thought. I built systems that talked to each other like old friends. I patched legacy code no one dared touch. I learned the infrastructure the way surgeons learn bodies. By feel, by memory. Trust grew quietly. That's how it always does. The shift started small. Meetings I wasn't invited to. Decisions announced after they were made. A junior asking me why we were deprecating a service I had just optimized. I smiled, explained, adjusted. Then one night, an automated alert fired. A config change, not mine. I traced it. The commit message was clean. Too clean. Written by someone copying my style without understanding the reasons behind it. I checked access logs. My permissions were still there, but mirrored, cloned. That's when I understood. They weren't replacing me. They were hollowing me out. I didn't confront him. I didn't rage. I documented everything. Silently. I stopped fixing things that weren't my responsibility. I stopped rewriting bad ideas into good ones. I answered questions with precision, not generosity. I made sure every undocumented dependency stayed undocumented. Not sabotage, just honesty. I updated my personal notes. I archived emails. I saved screenshots of approvals, warnings, and "we'll handle it later" replies. When the layoff came, I was ready. I walked out clean. 3 weeks later, the first system failed. A minor one. Client-facing but recoverable. The juniors panicked. They restarted services without understanding the order. Caches corrupted. Latency spiked. I watched from afar. A month later, a major client escalated. Data inconsistency. Reports didn't match. The root cause traced back to a temporary workaround I'd designed years ago and warned never to touch. They touched it. They always do. I heard my name in meetings I wasn't invited to anymore. The email arrived at 2:14 a.m. "Hope you're well. We could use your insight." I didn't reply. The next day, another outage. This one took down billing. Phones lit up. Clients demanded answers. Investors demanded blood. By the third email, the tone changed. "We're willing to discuss a short-term contract." I waited a week. Then I replied with a single line. "Happy to help. My consulting rate is attached. Triple my old salary, minimum 6 months. Full autonomy, no juniors touching production without my approval." They accepted in 12 minutes. Walking back into the building felt like stepping into a crime scene. I'd already solved. Same walls, different energy. He met me in the conference room. No suit this time, no smile. "You could have warned us," he said. "I did," I replied, calm, controlled. I pulled up my laptop. Logs, emails, screenshots, timeline of ignored. Warnings and cost-cutting decisions. Not accusations, facts. As I spoke, I watched it land. Each sentence stripping another layer of certainty from his face. I fixed the system in 48 hours. Not fast, precisely. I explained nothing I wasn't paid to explain. On the final day of my contract, he asked if I'd consider coming back full-time. I looked at him. Really looked. The man who once called me irreplaceable had replaced himself with desperation. "No," I said, "but I'll extend the contract." He nodded, grateful. That was the moment. Not when the system stabilized. Not when the client stayed. When he realized my value had never been my title. It was my restraint. I don't feel anger anymore. Just clarity. They didn't lose me when they fired me. They lost me when they thought I was just a line item. I kept the lights on. I always did. The difference now is simple. I get paid to decide when.